Paris is a dream destination, but if you spend any time online, you probably have heard some horror stories. That the French are rude, that you have unsafe streets, everything is super expensive, and of course, the dreaded pickpockets in the metro. It's enough to make anyone second guess their dream trip. But how much of this is actually true? And how much is just overblown myth and internet exaggeration? So in this video, we're breaking down the 12 biggest fears about visiting Paris and separating fact from fiction. From safety concerns to cultural etiquette, we'll tackle the most common misconceptions so you can travel with confidence and actually enjoy the magic of Paris. Allez, on y va. Most transportation fear about going to and from the airport or arriving here in Gare du Nord can be avoided with a little bit of planning. The RER-B train and line 14 are direct and easy to use. Now, another fear that people have is about safety on public transportation. The RER-B is generally safe, but be aware of pickpockets. Keep your valuables secure and avoid traveling alone late at night if you feel uneasy. Now, they have fixed taxi rate from Charles de Gaulle to Central Paris. It goes from 55 euros to 62 euros, and avoid fake taxis at all costs. A real taxi will have a sign on top of it and will never, ever, ever solicit you inside the airport. Now, another fear that people have is the language barrier with a taxi driver, but most understand basic English. But having your destination written down on a piece of paper will help you a lot, so make sure to have that ready. Now, Uber works in Paris, but taxis are often more reliable and similarly priced, and they can use the taxi lane, which means that they will get to their destination much faster. Now, the trains are the fastest to go from the airport to Paris, which will take about 45 minutes from Charles de Gaulle, and by car it will take about twice as that, roughly around 90 minutes. So if you're going to use a taxi, just plan for a little bit of extra time.
The next concern is that Paris is very expensive. The idea that Paris is outrageously expensive is actually a myth. Yes, luxury hotels and fine Michelin dining can be very pricey, but Paris also offers plenty of affordable options. For example, a simple bistro dinner is about half what we recently paid for a meal in the US. For food, bakeries sell delicious croissants and baguettes for under 2 euros and affordable fondue lunches for less than you can get at Burger King. And authentic meals can be found all around at local cafes for much less than the tourist-trapped restaurants. For transportation, the metro is cheap, efficient, and way more affordable than taxis at just 2.50 euros per ride. And the attractions, well, let's just say many world-class museums, including the Louvre, offer free entry on certain days, but even when you're paying, the Louvre is only 22 euros per person, and most of them are seriously affordable, more like 15 to 17 euros. And it's entirely possible to have a fabulous French experience without going into any attractions and just visiting the monuments and streets of Paris and spending 0 euros.
Now, another fear that people have about Paris is that it's unsafe. You've seen things on television and it feels like there's riots everywhere and you're going to get mugged and pickpocketed to death. And that's a complete myth. Like any major city, it has petty crimes, but violent crime rates are relatively low compared to other global capitals. Most safety concerns stem from pickpocketing in heavy tourist areas, like the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, and the metro. And this is true for any major tourist destination in the world. However, basic precautions, keeping your valuables secure, and staying aware of your surroundings are enough to avoid issues. Paris has a strong police presence, especially in busy areas, and the city is generally safe for solo travelers, including women. Many of the horror stories online are rare cases and results from lack of awareness. If you use common sense, avoid obvious scams like the petition sign up or the trick up games that you'll see in Montmartre and the Eiffel Tower, you're unlikely to encounter real danger.
Is how am I going to be able to communicate if I don't speak French? And the idea that French people would refuse to speak English is a myth. While it's true that not everyone in France is fluent, many Parisians, especially in touristic areas, have a basic understanding of English. But the key is attitude. If you approach with a friendly bonjour and make an effort, even with just a few French words, most people will be more than happy to help you in English. The French value politeness and expect greetings before asking for assistance. Plus, like anywhere, some people may simply be shy about hearing their own voice speaking in a foreign language. So don't stress, learn a few simple phrases, be respectful, and you'll find that language barriers in Paris are far less of a problem than you might think. Another thing we hear a lot of concerns about in being in France is food. That's right, people have fears about food, like the portion sizes. The portions in France are smaller than the US. French meals are balanced and satisfying, with multiple courses designed to be enjoyed leisurely. And because the food is so nutritious and fresh, you definitely won't leave hungry. Another thing about the food is for people who have dietary restrictions. But Paris has plenty of vegetarian, vegan, and gluten-free options, especially in modern cafes and international restaurants. Just do a little research beforehand. And if you have allergies, bring a note or use Google Translate to make sure that your waiter knows that you're serious about an allergy. The dining pace is something that people talk about because a lot of Americans are used to really quick meals, but meals here are meant to be enjoyed slowly. So if you're in a hurry, casual spots like boulangeries, brasseries offer quick, delicious meals. But if you're going into a restaurant, prepare to sit down for a while and enjoy it. And the big one that people talk about a lot when it comes to restaurants and food has to do with the tipping culture. There's really no stress about it. A 15% surcharge is already included in the price that's listed on the menu, so tipping is not required. If your service is exceptional, or if you ask your waiter to do anything extra for you, like extra translating and suggestions and such, leaving a small change or rounding up is appreciated.
Another fear that people have is with lodging, but most lodging concerns are easy to manage with the proper expectation and planning. Now, one of them is with the small hotel rooms, and it's true that Paris hotel rooms are smaller than the US, but they're cozy and efficient. So if space is a priority, book an apartment or a higher category rooms. The lack of air conditioning is another one. Now, many hotels do have AC, but not all of them. So make sure to check booking or visit in cooler months. And fans are often available upon request. Now, another thing that we hear all the time is this area safe, or just safety about certain areas? But most of Paris is very safe. But research your neighborhood and try to stay in the arrondissement from the 1st to the 10th. Now, another concern is about expensive hotels, but budget options exist. Stay in less touristy areas like the 11th, the 12th, the 14th, or the 15th arrondissement for much better pricing. Another issue is about no elevators. Some older buildings lack elevators, so check ahead if you have heavy luggage or mobility concerns. Another one is about the different hotel amenities, like no top sheets. That's normal in Europe. Or no coffee makers in my room. But the good news is you have a coffee shop at every street corners in Paris. And the last one is about the Airbnb legality. Airbnbs are legal but must be registered, so stick to verified listings. And they are limited in the number of days that they can rent their units per year, which is why you see a lot of cancellations. So make sure to verify that before you book your Airbnb. And for Paris, we usually recommend for people to book an apartment rental through an agency or get a boutique hotel. Now, when planning a trip to Paris, it can be confusing because you have a lot of websites offering information, sometimes contradictory from one website to the next. So we've put together an easy to use app that is available on your computer, on your tablet, and of course on your mobile phone. We've put tons of information from transportation tips, recommended hotel options, ideally selected for visitors, info on all the attractions, and best of all, an interactive map of Paris with all of your favorite bakeries, restaurants, and sweet treats. I've put a link in the description. Just check it out and see if it's a good fit for you.
The next big concern many people have is about the itinerary. But most of building an itinerary can be handled by a little extra planning in advance so that you can have a nice, easy time on site. Look at things like overpacking your schedule, because Paris is best enjoyed at a relaxed pace. Pick one major site per day to visit and leave plenty of time to wander. Another thing is about long lines at the attractions. Skip the line tickets, and visiting early or late in the afternoon reduces a lot of wait time at popular sites like the Louvre or the Eiffel Tower. Or no notice when businesses and attractions are closed. You really need to check in advance to see the hours. And many museums are closed on Monday, while restaurants and shops are closed on Sundays. Another thing is getting lost. Google Maps and Metro apps make navigation easy. Paris is very walkable, and getting lost can help you find some true hidden gems. Another itinerary option is making restaurant reservations. Book your top must-do restaurants in advance, but great bistros always have spots for walk-ins. And of course, missing the real Paris is a concern for many. Explore local neighborhoods like the Marais, Canal Saint-Martin, or Montmartre for an authentic experience.
Driving in France isn't as scary as most people think, as long as you prepare yourself and manage things in advance. Now, one thing is for sure that you should be afraid is that the traffic in Paris is very chaotic. It's true, it's hectic. Avoid driving the city at all costs. Use public transportation instead. If needed, you can drive really early or late in the evening when it's quieter if you want to get out of town with a rental car. Now, another thing that people are scared of is the complicated road signs and rules. But most of the signs use symbols, not words, making them easy to understand. Learn the basic road signs before driving and you'll be just fine. Another thing that people are scared of is narrow streets and parking. Now, small roads exist, but GPS apps help. Parking in Paris is very tough, so what I would say is use a garage or park outside the city and take a train in. Now, toll booths accept credit cards. Just take a ticket when entering and pay when exiting. Now, another concern is driving a manual car. Automatic rental exists but costs more, so book early to guarantee one and make sure that they blocked an automatic car with you, because if you don't, you will get a manual car. Now, a lot of people get caught with the speed cameras in France because they are very strict. Now, if the driving sign says 50, they mean 50. They don't mean 60 or somewhere around 55. You will get clocked and get a ticket. Now, priority to the right is a rule, and that's one thing you should be concerned about. This applies mostly in villages. Major roads have normal right-of-way signs. Now, if you're gonna be driving in France, I suggest you watch this video with everything you need to know about driving in the country. Another fear that people have is with the Paris Metro and going on the ground. Now, the Paris Metro is efficient, safe, and easy to use once you know the basics. Now, of course, you have some pickpockets, but it's avoidable. Just keep your bag zipped, avoid distractions, and be aware in crowded areas like Line 1 and Line 4. The violent crime is very rare in the Metro. Also, the Metro is very well marked. Google Maps and RATP apps make route planning super simple, so you're not gonna get lost. All of the ticket machines have an English options, and maps use colors and numbers, making navigation easy. Now, what you should do is you should avoid the Metro in the rush hour, which is between 8 to 10 a.m. and 5 to 7 p.m., and you'll have a much more comfortable ride. Now, another thing that people mention is the cleanliness and the smell. Some stations are older, but most Metro cars are clean and modern. Now, about ticketing and fares. Buy a Navigo Easy Pass or contactless tickets to simplify your travel. Now, another thing that you may hear are strikes, but they are announced in advance, so just check the RATP website or a website in French called C'est la grève. And if you want more clarity, I have a lot more videos about that.
Another concern we hear all the time is people being afraid of getting lost. But actually getting lost in Paris can be a really good thing, because that's how you stumble upon little streets with fabulous hidden gems that nobody's been talking about. People say that the streets have a confusing layout because Paris is not built on a grid. It's an old city, but Google Maps and city maps make navigation easy. Just follow the landmarks. And there's a conversation about the lack of English words. Major areas have English signs, and street names are always posted on buildings and intersections. There's a concern about no Wi-Fi or data access, but you can download offline maps on Google Maps or use free Wi-Fi in cafes, museums, and metro stations to get your way around in maps. One thing we've learned in foreign countries is if you don't have Wi-Fi or data, make screenshots when you do have it so you can have your maps ready. Another concern people have about getting lost is being unsafe in unfamiliar areas. And just like any big city, you should pay attention and stay aware. But Paris is very safe. Just avoid the poorly lit areas and be around where people are. Another thing that people worry about getting lost is losing travel companions. Set a meeting point before entering a busy place like the Louvre or the Metro, and if you end up getting separated when you enter the Metro, have a plan to get off on the next exit so that they can catch up with you in just one ride. And the last concern about getting lost in Paris is not knowing where to ask for help. Hotels, police stations, and even many locals are happy to assist if needed. Don't be afraid to ask.
Another fear that people have when visiting Paris is getting sick when they're in the City of Lights. But France has excellent healthcare even for visitors. Now, many clinics and hospitals accept tourists. SOS Médecins offer 24/7 house calls. Pharmacies can refill many US prescriptions with the original bottle or the doctor's notes. Medical care in France is affordable, and many US insurance plan covers emergencies abroad, so check before traveling. Now, Paris has pharmacies everywhere. Just look for the green sign like that. That's a sign. That's not a weed store. Now, if you have an emergency, just dial 1515 and someone will answer you and ask if they speak English. But your best bet is probably to ask the front desk clerk to call emergency for you so they can translate what's going on if you don't speak any French. Now, I have not seen one pharmacist to date that didn't speak some English. So if you have any issue, go and ask them and describe what problem you're dealing with. And if they don't speak any English, you can always use Google Translate. In this video, we told you about the 12 biggest fears that people have about coming to Paris. Next, I would watch this video on ways not to waste money in Paris.